The U.S. Senate could soon approve a $2 billion plan for a car trade-in program called Cash for Clunkers. The aim is to encourage people to buy more fuel-efficient models. And it's all part of a bailout plan to save the struggling U.S. economy. But some fear Obama's methods are leading to a crash. Well, we can now talk to our correspondent in Washington, D.C., Dina Gusovsky. Hello to Dina. Over to you now. What more can you tell us about this?
Hey there. Well, Barack Obama has been talking about the economy lately, and he seems to be pretty optimistic these days. He recently told a group of people in North Carolina that he thinks we're seeing the beginning of the end of the recession. He also defended his economic stimulus, saying, look, it's going to create jobs and get the economy back on its feet. But not everyone agrees with these assessments. Webster Tarpley is an economic historian, author, and radio host. He warns of a second wave of a world economic depression and says that there will be a dollar crisis due to hyperinflation. He also says that there is no automatic business cycle to keep the world economy from tanking. Well, he joins me today to discuss all of this. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
So you recently wrote an article where you talked about hyperinflation and also monetary reform. You think that we're going to be seeing serious monetary reform soon. What is this going to look like, and when is it really going to happen?
Let me just talk about the hyperinflation first, if I could. Obama, as usual, is talking through his hat. We've got a situation now where stocks are going up. There's a great euphoria here. People think that they've got a new stock bubble. Gold is going up, oil going up, commodities going up, but the dollar is going down and U.S. Treasury securities are going down. Now, what if that stock market keeps going to Dow 10,000, Dow 15,000, 20,000, 35,000, 50,000? That will be a sign of something called hyperinflation. We've never really had it here. They had it in Germany, for example, in 1923.
So what's going to happen when, as you say, the hyperinflation is going to take?
That means that you're going to have to take your money to the supermarket in a wheelbarrow and bring home what you bought in your pocket. The Obama administration is pumping $24 trillion of Federal Reserve, FDIC, and Treasury money into the banking system for one purpose only: to bail out the derivatives bubble. Derivatives being these toxic securities, junk paper, complex instruments, but they're derivatives. They amount to about $1.5 quadrillion worldwide. So we've got 24 trillion, a large sum,
right,
but really nothing compared to 1,500 trillion, which is the amount that's being attempted to bail out. This will fail, and we've also got at the same time industrial production collapsing. U.S. industrial production, Detroit, the auto industry is just about gone at this point. We've got whole states collapsing, like California is lapsing into absolute barbarism. So that's a recipe for an explosion.
Okay, now, there are countries all over the world that hold U.S. dollars and Treasury bonds, and you seem to think that these countries, like Russia and China, are nervously eyeing each other, saying who's going to bolt for the exit first. What do you mean by that, bolting for the exit, when it comes to this?
You get this huge overhang of dollars, probably 4 trillion, maybe 5 trillion. Nobody really knows. We've got euro dollars. We've got between 1 and 2 trillion in the hands of China. Japan has some. Russia has some. Saudi Arabia seems to have some still. Europe and others. The problem with that is this is inherently unstable. Some kind of a political event, some kind of a completely unforeseen and unrelated event could trigger a panic. In other words, the rush to dump the dollar. What I would recommend, rather than wait around for the panic rush to the exits, I would suggest...
When is a panic going to happen? Give me a time frame here.
It's because it depends on outside events. It depends on things that we can't even predict. It could be a military event. It could be a terrorist event. It could be just about anything. We've had situations where if the U.S. president gets sick, the stock market crashes. Could be anything. But let me point out, if, for example, Russia has several $100 billion of dollar reserves, don't hold on to those as a financial investment. That's a very bad investment. What you ought to think about doing is using them to buy something. Think about buying, for example, 1,000 modern hospitals that the United States could build in Russia to address the problem of public health, longevity, and somehow turn around the falling rate of longevity and the demographic crisis.
Okay, you also said that you think that the dollar's role of the single world currency is over. So are we going to see a new world currency? I mean, what is that going to look like?
I think that's not probably a good idea. If you look at the most recent experiment in this, it's the euro, which has turned out to be very, very oligarchical, deflationary. It's a grim and sinister experiment. What I think we can do is go back to Bretton Woods that we had from 1944 to 1971. That's probably the most successful world monetary system that we've ever had. That means fixed parities, narrow bands of fluctuation among the main currencies. The euro, the yen, the dollar, now joined by the ruble, the renminbi, possibly a Latin American regional currency. Gold settlement, clearing of balance of payments.
So you're saying back to the gold standard? Is that what you're saying?
The gold standard as it existed under Bretton Woods. But here's what I would suggest. The Russian leaders should address the American people, Medvedev and Putin. Do what Khrushchev and Gorbachev did at various times. Go to the American people over the head of Obama and talk about a common economic interest as well as a common interest in world peace, and think about joint work to try to start world trade again. World trade is now down about 40% just in this year. So what could we do to restart that?
And okay, thank you so much for being here. I got to wrap it up. I wish my guest wasn't so shy today, right? But it's always good to hear alternative points of view when it comes to the economy. But we have to throw it back to you in Moscow for now.
All right, Dina, thanks very much indeed for bringing us those views. Dina Gosofsky from Washington.